The attic was dark, the air thick with dust and old memories. I sat on a splintered crate, my hands trembling, the party's laughter echoing from below. Locked, trapped, by my own daughter-in-law, Rachel. Betrayal. The word clawed at my chest. Why would she do this? On a night meant for family. I'm Evelyn, 65 years old, a widow living in Savannah, Georgia. This house, my family's home for 40 years, holds every laugh, every tear. My son James is my heart. I raised him alone after his father died, stitching dresses by lamplight to pay the bills. Every sacrifice, every late night built this life. Now James is married to Rachel, a woman with sharp smiles and sharper secrets. Tonight they threw a party, a celebration, they said. But I ended up here, locked away. It started innocently. The party buzzed with music and chatter, filling our historic Savannah home with warmth. Guests mingled under the chandelier, sipping sweet tea on the porch. I wore my best dress, a soft blue one James gave me years ago, eager to welcome new neighbors. Rachel flitted about, her laughter bright, her eyes never meeting mine. Something felt off. A shadow. A lie. Then she called me upstairs. "Evelyn, I need help with decorations," she said, her voice syrupy. I followed, trusting. The attic stairs creaked under my feet, the air growing stale. She pointed to a box, her smile tight. "Just grab that." I turned and the door slammed. A click, locked. I pounded on it, my voice hoarse. Rachel let me out. Silence. Only the party's hum below. Betrayal. It wasn't an accident. It was deliberate. I sank to the floor, dust coating my hands. Why, what had I done? Memories flooded back. James as a boy, his small hand in mine, his first day of school. I'd fought for him, for this house. And now Rachel had stolen this night. This moment. Had James known my sweet boy who fixed my porch last summer? Would he let this happen? Doubt crept in, cold and sharp. What if she'd turned him against me? I searched the attic, my fingers brushing old trunks, faded photos. A lantern flickered to life, casting shadows on the walls. This house was mine, paid for with my sweat, my tears. Rachel had no right to lock me here, to erase me. Betrayal wasn't just personal, it was an attack on my legacy. I needed out. I needed answers. The party grew louder below, glasses clinking, voices rising. Were they laughing at me? Planning more? I found a loose board, pried it open. A small window, too high, but hope sparked. I dragged a crate beneath it, my knees aching. I had to see, to know. The window revealed the backyard guests dancing, Rachel at the center, her smile triumphant. My chest tightened. She'd planned this, excluded me, humiliated me. But why was it the house? The inheritance. Something darker. I clutched, the crate, tears stinging. I wouldn't break. Not yet. I had a plan, a secret. This house was mine to control, and Rachel would learn that. I heard footsteps. Someone coming. The door rattled. My heart leapt. Evelyn. A voice. Martha, my neighbor. Relief flooded me. "Help," I shouted. Martha's key turned, the door creaked open. I stumbled out, my dress torn, my resolve steel. "She locked me in," I whispered. Martha's eyes widened. "Rachel." We crept downstairs, the party oblivious. Rachel laughed, her arm around James. "My son. My world." Did he know? Martha squeezed my hand. "We'll find out," she said, "and she'll pay." Betrayal had ignited a fire in me. A fire for justice, for revenge. But what was Rachel hiding? Why lock me away? And what would happen when I turned the tables on her? The living room was quiet now, the party's echoes fading into the night. I sat on my worn sofa, the blue dress still clinging to me, dust streaked across its fabric. Martha hovered nearby, her face etched with concern. Locked, betrayed, by Rachel. The word burned a scar on my soul. Why would she do this to me, to James? I'm Evelyn. This Savannah house, with its creaking floors and ivy-clad walls, is my sanctuary. I raised James here alone after his father's heart gave out 25 years ago. I stitched dresses by candlelight, sold them at the market, skipped meals to keep us afloat. Every dollar, every tear built this life. James grew strong, kinda carpenter with calloused hands. Then came Rachel. Beautiful, calculating, and now this. Pain. It wasn't just the attic, it was a knife to my heart. I closed my eyes, memories crashing like waves. James at 5 building a toy boat in this very room, his laughter filling the air. Me teaching him to cook grits, his flour-dusted cheeks grinning. I'd given him everything, every sacrifice, every hope. And now he was married to her. Rachel, the woman who locked me away. Did he know my sweet boy who carved my initials into the porch railing? Could he condone this? I stood, pacing the room, my slippers scuffing the hardwood. Photos lined the mantel, James in his high school cap, us at Christmas, the house aglow with lights. Each frame a testament to our bond. But Rachel's shadow loomed over them now. I remembered her first visit, her smile bright as magnolias, her hand tight on James's arm. I'd welcomed her, cooked her shrimp, and grits, thought she'd be family. Was I wrong? Martha handed me a glass of water, her voice soft. Evelyn, what happened? I sipped, my hands shaking. She lured me upstairs. Locked the door, left me there. Martha's jaw tightened. That's cruel? Why? The question hung heavy as humidity. Why was it jealousy, control? Something deeper, betrayal wasn't random. It had a motive, and I needed to find it. I thought back to recent days. Rachel's subtle jabs, Evelyn, maybe it's time for a smaller place. Her insistence on redecorating, pushing my old furniture out. The way she'd whisper to James when I entered, their voices dropping. I'd brushed it off, blaming her city ways. She'd moved from Atlanta, all Polish and ambition. But now I saw it. A pattern. Isolation. Betrayal. She wanted me gone. I grabbed my phone, dialing James. Voicemail. James, it's Mom. Call me. Now. My voice cracked. What if he didn't answer? What if Rachel had poisoned him against me? The thought was a dagger twisting deep. I couldn't lose him. Not after I'd built this life for us. I needed him to hear me. To believe me. Martha sat beside me, her eyes fierce. She's up to something, Evelyn. I've seen her type smooth talkers with hidden agendas. I nodded, my mind racing. Rachel's charm masked something dark. The attic wasn't a prank, it was a statement. A move to erase me. But why the house? My influence over James' pain fueled my resolve. I wouldn't let her win. I stood again, my reflection in the window. Gray hair, tired eyes, but a fire within. I'd survived hurricanes, widowhood, poverty. I'd survived this. I had a plan. This house was mine, deeded to me. Rachel thought she could lock me out. She'd learn. I'd fight back. With justice, with revenge. Martha touched my arm. We'll figure this out. Start with why. I agreed, my heart steadying. Why had Rachel locked me away? What was she hiding? I needed proof. Answers. And when I found them, I'd turn her world upside down. But what if James sided with her? What if her betrayal had already won him over? What if I was too late? The morning sun filtered through the lace curtains, casting soft patterns on my kitchen floor. I stood by the counter, the attic dust still clinging to my skin, the memory of that lock searing my mind. Betrayal. It pulsed through me, a rhythm of pain and purpose. Rachel thought she could cage me, but I had a secret. A weapon. I'd sell this Savannah house and leave her homeless. Justice would be mine. I'm Evelyn. This house, with its sagging porch and towering oaks, is my fortress. I built it with James brick by brick after his father's death. Every room holds a story, his first bike, my sewing machine, our laughter. I'd paid off the mortgage 5 years ago, the deed in my name. Rachel moved in with James, her Atlanta Polish, clashing with our southern roots. Now she'd locked me away. But she didn't know my power. This house was my leverage. My revenge. I opened the old cedar chest, pulling out the deed. The paper crinkled, the ink faded but firm. Mine. Not hers. Not James's yet. I'd kept it quiet, a safeguard for my future. But Rachel's betrayal changed everything. I'd sell it. Force her out. The thought was bitter but sweet. Pain had turned to resolve. I'd reclaim my dignity, my control. I sat at the table, the deed spread before me, memories flickering. James at 12, hammering nails with me, his face smeared with sweat. Me stitching late into the night, dreaming of his future. This house was our bond, our legacy. Rachel wanted it, her redecorating, her hints about downsizing, but it wasn't hers to take. Betrayal had sharpened my focus. She'd learned the cost of crossing me. I called Martha, my voice steady. "I'm selling the house," I said. Silence. "Then Evelyn, are you sure?" Her tone was cautious. She locked me in the attic. "Martha, she's planning something. I won't let her win." Martha sighed. "Okay, but we need a plan and proof." "Proof?" "Yes." I needed to know why. What drove Rachel to this? I opened my laptop, searching real estate listings in Savannah. The market was hot. Historic homes like mine fetched high prices. I could get $600,000, maybe more, enough to start over, enough to leave Rachel with nothing. The idea thrilled me. Justice wasn't just a word, it was a deed signed and sealed. I contacted a realtor, my hands firm on the keyboard. "Discreet sale," I said. "No family notice." But doubts crept in. What if James blamed me? What if he saw this as my betrayal? I pushed the thought away, focusing on Rachel's actions, her whispers to James, her cold stares, the attic lock. She was isolating me, maybe for the house, maybe for more. I remembered her mentioning a care home last month, her voice too casual. Was that her plan? To lock me away permanently? Martha arrived, her arms full of files. I dug into Rachel, she said, dropping them on the table. "She's been asking about your assets, talking to a lawyer." My stomach dropped. A lawyer? For what? To challenge the deed. To steal my home. Betrayal ran deeper than I'd feared. Rachel wasn't just spiteful, she was calculating. I flipped through the files, bank statements, emails. Rachel had been transferring small sums from James's account. Not much, but enough to raise flags. Was she draining him? Planning to leave him? My heart ached for my son. He didn't deserve this. But I did. This house sale would protect him, punish her. I stood, the deed in hand, my reflection in the window, determined, unyielding. I'd sell tomorrow. List it quietly. Let Rachel wake to a nightmare. The realtor confirmed a meeting. My plan was set. Revenge was close. But what if Rachel fought back? What if she had leverage I didn't see? What would James say when the house was gone? The afternoon sun dipped low over Savannah, casting long shadows across my kitchen table. The deed lay there, a silent promise, while Martha's files sprawled beside it. Rachel's betrayal gnawed at me, a constant ache. Locked in the attic, plotting against me. Why I needed to dig deeper to unearth the past she'd buried. Justice demanded it. I'm Evelyn. This house, with its peeling paint and creaking stairs, is my history. I raised James here alone, after his father's truck accident left us with nothing but debt. I sewed dresses, sold them at Forsyth Park, stretched every dime. James grew into a man, strong, loyal, until Rachel came. She swept in from Atlanta, all charm and ambition, and now this. Pain. It wasn't just the lock. It was the years of subtle cuts I'd ignored. I opened Martha's files, my fingers trembling. Photos slipped out: Rachel at a cafe with a man in a suit, not James. Dates stamped months back. My breath caught. Who was he? A lawyer, a lover. I flipped to emails Rachel asking about elder care options mentioning my name. My chest tightened. Was she planning to institutionalize me? Betrayal wasn't new. It had roots. I leaned back, memories flooding. Rachel's first Thanksgiving here, her smile tight as she critiqued my cornbread. Too rustic, she'd said, her laugh sharp. I'd laughed it off, wanting peace. But then the redecorating, my mother's quilt replaced my chair, shoved aside. Small moves building a wall. I'd seen it, felt it, but trusted James's love for her. Was I blind? Martha sat across from me, her voice low. She's been digging into your finances, Evelyn. That man, his name's Paul Carter. A probate lawyer. Probate. My mind raced. Was she after my estate? The house, my savings, betrayal cut deeper with each revelation. I thought of James, hammering new shingles last year, his pride in this home. Did he know her plans? I dialed him again. Voicemail. James, it's Mom. We need to talk. It's urgent. My voice broke. Silence answered. What if Rachel controlled his phone? What if she'd turned him? The thought was a blade slicing through hope. I hung up, my resolve hardening. I wouldn't wait. I'd confront her past myself. I rummaged through old boxes, finding letters from James's childhood, his school reports. Then a note Rachel's handwriting slipped into a drawer. Paul, expedite the trust. She won't notice. Trust my trust fund. The one I'd hidden $200,000 from years of sewing. My hands shook. She knew. She was after it. Betrayal wasn't just personal, it was theft. Martha gasped, reading over my shoulder. She's been planning this, Evelyn, since before the wedding. Before the wedding? My mind spun. Rachel had targeted me from the start. Her smiles, her gifts, they were masks. I remembered her pushing James to sign papers last year, claiming it was insurance. Was it a power of attorney, a way to lock me away? I stood pacing the house, groaning with me. This wasn't about the attic. It was about control. Erasure. But I had the deed. The sale. My revenge. I'd sell tomorrow, leave her with nothing. Justice would strike. But what if Paul had already moved against me? What if Rachel's plan was further along? What would I find when I faced her next? The clock ticked past midnight in my Savannah kitchen, the silence pressing against my ears. The deed rested on the table, a beacon of hope, while Rachel's note about Paul Carter burned in my mind. Betrayal. It fueled me a fire, stoking my resolve. I needed evidence, solid proof of her schemes. Justice wouldn't wait. I'm Evelyn. This house with its moss-draped oaks and faded shutters is my lifeline. I built it with James after his father's death, sewing dresses under dim lights to keep us fed. Rachel invaded it, her Atlanta polish masking her greed. She locked me in the attic, plotted with Paul, and now I'd fight back. Pain had sharpened into purpose. I'd gather what I needed to bring her down. Martha returned at dawn, her arms full of documents. I've been busy, she said, her voice tight. Talked to a friend at the courthouse. She spread papers across the table, property records, bank statements, a draft trust document. My heart sank. Rachel had filed a petition to manage my affairs, citing dementia. Dementia, I was sharp, clear. This was a lie, a calculated betrayal. I scanned the papers, my fingers trembling. The trust draft listed my $200,000 savings redirected to a joint account with Rachel's name. Paul Carter's signature loomed at the bottom. My savings, my sweat, stolen. I thought of James, his hands rough from carpentry, trusting her. Did he know my chest ached? She was draining us both. Justice demanded exposure. Martha pointed to a bank statement. She's been siphoning money, $5,000 here, $3,000 there from James's account. Claims it's for home improvements. Improvements? The new curtains, the fancy rugs she'd spent our money on her vanity. Betrayal wasn't just personal, it was financial. I clenched my fists. She'd pay for this. I called my lawyer, Mr. Hargrove, a grizzled Savannah native I'd known for years. Evelyn. What's wrong? He asked, his voice gravelly. Rachel's trying to take my house, my savings. She locked me in the attic. A pause. That's serious. Bring me everything. We'll fight it. Relief washed over me. I had an ally, a shield. We met at his office, a cramped space overlooking the river. I handed over Martha's files, the note, the deed. Hargrove's eyes narrowed. This petition's weak, no medical proof. But the trust, that's fraud. We can freeze it. Freeze it. My heart leapt. Rachel's scheme could unravel, but I needed more. Proof of the attic lock, her intent. Martha suggested a recorder. Wear it next time you see her, she said. Catch her admitting it. I nodded, my mind racing. The house sale was set for tomorrow, $600,000 cash offer. But I wanted Rachel's confession first, to see her face when she realized. Revenge was close. That afternoon, I visited James and Rachel. The air was thick, her smile forced. Evelyn, you're back, she said, her eyes darting. I wore the recorder, my voice calm. Why'd you lock me in the attic? Rachel. She froze, then laughed. What a misunderstanding. Her lie was thin. The recorder hummed, capturing it. I left my heart pounding. The evidence was building. The sale loomed. Rachel's control was slipping. But what if she suspected? What if she moved faster to lock me away? The evening draped Savannah in a humid haze, the cicadas humming outside my window. I sat at my kitchen table, the recorder clutched in my hand. Rachel's shaky laugh replaying in my mind. Betrayal. It was a drumbeat now driving me toward justice. The house sale was tomorrow, $600, a silent strike against her. But I needed more. A confrontation. A final blow. I'm Evelyn. This house, with its weathered clapboards and swaying Spanish moss, is my soul. I raised James here, sewing through the night after his father's death, building a life from scraps. Rachel's arrival brought chaos, her lock in the attic, her financial schemes with Paul Carter. Pain had forged my resolve. I'd face her armed with evidence and watch her fall. Martha arrived, her face grim. I overheard Rachel on the phone. She said, her voice low. She's panicking. Mentioned debts, big ones. From Atlanta. Debts. My mind raced. Was that why she targeted my savings? My house betrayal wasn't just greed, it was desperation. I pictured her all smiles, hiding a crumbling life. Justice would expose it. What? I played the recorder for Martha. Rachel's misunderstanding lie crackled through thin and brittle. That's enough for now, Martha said, but get her to admit the lock, in person. I nodded, my heart thudding. Tomorrow after the sale, I'd confront her. Here in this house, she coveted. The thought was a spark, igniting revenge. I prepared, pulling out an old photo album, James at 10, fishing by the river, me beside him. This house held our love, our fights, our triumphs. Rachel wanted to erase that, but I'd erase her instead. I called James, my voice steady. Come by tomorrow, son. We need to talk. He agreed, unaware of the storm brewing. Hargrove called, his tone urgent. The sales set, Evelyn. Buyers ready. But Rachel's lawyer filed an injunction, claims you're unfit. We'll counter with the recorder. Unfit. My blood boiled. She was scrambling, clutching at straws. The deed was mine, the sale legal. But her move meant danger. What if she acted before I could strike? I walked the house, touching the walls, each crack a memory. The attic stairs creaked under me, the locks echo haunting. I found a hammer left by James and held it. A symbol. I'd break her control, not just the door. The confrontation would be my hammer smashing her lies. Martha brought news at dusk. Rachel's been selling jewelry, James's gifts. She's in deep. Deep. How deep was she fleeing creditors? Using James. My chest tightened. I had to protect him. The sale would free us. The confrontation would reveal her. I rehearsed my words, standing by the mirror. Rachel, you locked me away. You stole from us. This house is mine. My reflection, gray hair, fierce eyes nodded back. I was ready. The sale would hit at noon, the confrontation at dusk. Justice was near. But what if James took her side? What if her debts dragged him down? What would she do when she learned the house was sold? The Savannah air hung heavy at dusk, the house silent except for the creak of settling wood. I stood in the parlor, the deed signed the sale complete, $600,000 in my account. Rachel's fate was sealed. Betrayal had driven me here, but tonight, a family dinner would unveil her final move. Justice was close, trembling on the edge. I'm Evelyn. This house, with its sagging roof and ancient oaks, was my life's work. I raised James alone after his father's death, sewing through Savannah nights to keep us whole. Rachel's lock in the attic, her schemes with Paul Carter, had shattered that. Pain had turned to purpose. Now I'd face her, recorder in my pocket, ready to expose her. The dining room glowed with candlelight, James and Rachel arriving together. James's smile was warm, unaware. Rachel's eyes flickered, nervous. "Evelyn, you look well," she said, her voice forced. I nodded, my heart pounding. The table held my best china, a facade for the storm brewing. Betrayal was her shadow, I'd drag it into light. We ate in tense silence, the clink of forks, a stark rhythm. James spoke of a new carpentry job, his voice bright. Rachel cut in. "We should discuss your future, Evelyn." Her tone was smooth, too smooth. I leaned forward. "My future," she smiled cold. "A care home. You're not safe here alone." My blood froze. A care home, after the attic. This wasn't a suggestion, it was a plan. I gripped the recorder, my voice steady. "Safe. You locked me in the attic, Rachel." Her face paled, but she laughed. "That was a mistake. A lie." James frowned, confused. "Mom, what's this?" I played the recording, her misunderstanding crumbling under truth. James's eyes widened. "Rachel, is this true?" she stammered. "It's exaggerated," but her hands trembled, her mask slipping. I pressed on. "She's been draining your account, James, planning to institutionalize me." His face darkened, pain flashing. Then the twist. Rachel lunged, grabbing a letter from her purse. "This is a doctor's note," she said, voice shaking. "You're unfit. I have proof I snatched it, forged, sloppy dated last week." My mind reeled. She'd fabricated this to lock me away forever. Betrayal wasn't just theft, it was erasure. James stood, his voice raw. "Rachel, what have you done?" She sobbed. "I had to the debts from Atlanta." My heart sank. She dragged him into her mess. I held the deed, my ace. "The house is sold," I said. "You're out." Her scream echoed, shattering the silence. But what was in those debts? What else had she hidden? What would James do now? The dining room lay in chaos, candlelight flickering over shattered china. Rachel's scream still rang in my ears, her face a mask of rage and despair. The deed was in my hand, the sale finalized, $600,000 secure in my account. Betrayal had led me here, but now justice was a blade cutting deep. I'd sold the house, leaving her homeless. Triumph was near. I'm Evelyn. This Savannah home with its creaking floors and whispering oaks was my sanctuary. I raised James alone after his father's death, sewing through endless nights to hold us together. Rachel's attic lock, her forged note, her debts, they'd pushed me to this edge. Pain had forged my strength. Now, I'd watch her fall. James stared at me, his face a storm of shock and hurt. "Mom, you sold the house." His voice cracked. I nodded, steady. "She locked me away, James. Planned to institutionalize me. Drained your money." I held up the recorder, the forged note, the bank statements. His eyes darted to Rachel, who sank into a chair, sobbing. Rachel's voice broke. "I needed the money. The debts my ex-husband's business failed. Debts." My mind raced. She'd married James to escape her past, to use our home. Betrayal wasn't just personal, it was a web ensnaring us all. I stepped closer, my voice cold. You used us. Now you're out. The front door burst open, Martha, her eyes wide. Evelyn, the buyer's here. They've taken possession. My heart leapt. It was done. The house with its memories and ghosts was no longer mine, but neither was it Rachel's. Justice had struck. I handed James the sale papers, his hands shaking. It's for your future son. A new start. Rachel lunged, grabbing my arm. You can't do this. Where will I go? Her nails dug in her desperation raw. I pulled free, my voice firm. You should have thought of that before the attic. The buyer, a stern man in a suit, entered, keys in hand. Ma'am, you need to leave, he said to Rachel. She collapsed, wailing. Ugh! James turned to her, his voice low. You lied about everything. He stepped toward me, tears in his eyes. Mom, I didn't know. I hugged him, my own tears falling. The house was gone, but our bond held. Rachel's lies were exposed. Triumph flickered, fragile, but real. But what would Rachel do next? Would she fight the sale? What secrets still lurked in her debts? The Savannah night pressed against the windows, the house now echoing with emptiness. The buyer had taken possession, his footsteps fading down the drive. Rachel knelt on the floor, her sobs a jagged rhythm, her hands clutching the rug she'd once chosen. Betrayal had brought us here, but justice was my shield. She'd made her last stand, and I'd break it. Triumph was within reach. I'm Evelyn. This house, stripped of my belongings, was my battlefield. I raised James alone after his father's death, sewing through Savannah's humid nights to build our life. Rachel's attic lock her forged note, her debts they'd forged my resolve. Pain had turned to power. Now I'd watch her crumble, surrounded by allies. James stood by me, his arm around my shoulder, his face a mix of grief and resolve. Mom, I'm with you, he whispered. His trust warmed me, a balm against Rachel's lies. She rose, her eyes wild. James, please, I love you. Her voice was a plea, desperate and hollow. He shook his head, stepping back. Love doesn't lock my mother away. Martha burst in, her phone glowing. Evelyn, I called the police. Rachel's ex-husband confirmed her debts, $150,000. She's been hiding it. My heart raced. $150,000 she'd risked us for. That betrayal wasn't just greed, it was a sinkhole dragging her down. I turned to Rachel. You used us to pay your past. Rachel lunged again, grabbing a vase, hurling it at me. It shattered against the wall, glass spraying. You ruined me, she screamed. James shielded me, his voice firm. Stop, Rachel, it's over. Her hands shook, her face contorted. I'll sue, the sale's illegal. But her threat was weak. Hargrove had ensured the deed was ironclad. The police arrived, their lights flashing through the windows. An officer approached, his voice stern. Ma'am, you need to leave. Trespassing. Rachel sank, her sobs turning to whimpers. Martha handed over the evidence, recordings, bank statements, the forged note. The officer nodded. We'll investigate fraud. She's out. Neighbors gathered outside, whispers spreading. Old Mrs. Carter from next door called Evelyn. We're here for you. Their support lifted me, a wave of strength. Rachel glared, her last stand failing. You'll regret this, she hissed, but her power was gone. Justice had rallied my allies. But what if she found a loophole? What if her ex retaliated? What would tomorrow bring for us? The Savannah dawn broke soft and golden, the last of Rachel's sobs fading into the morning mist. The house stood empty, its keys handed to the buyer. Its memories now mine to carry. Betrayal had scarred us, but justice had prevailed. I stood on the porch, James beside me, the weight of triumph settling in my bones. This was freedom. This was my victory. I'm Evelyn. This house, with its ancient oaks and whispering winds, was my life's anchor. I raised James alone, after his father's death, sewing through nights to weave our future. Rachel's attic lock, her forged schemes, her debts, they'd tested me. Pain had forged my strength, and now empowerment lifted me. We'd start anew together. James held my hand, his eyes red but steady. "Mom, I'm sorry I didn't see it," he said, his voice thick. I squeezed back, tears brimming. "You're here now, son. That's enough." The police had taken Rachel away last night, her threats dissolving into the night. Fraud charges loomed, her ex-husband's testimony sealed it. Justice had struck hard and true. Martha joined us, a smile breaking through her worry. The sales final, Evelyn, $600,000, and Hargrove froze her trust attempt. I exhaled, relief washing over me. The money was ours, $200,000 for my savings, the rest for James's future. A new home awaited in Charleston, a fresh start. Triumph wasn't just revenge, it was rebirth. We packed the last boxes, James's childhood toys, my sewing machine. Neighbors brought coffee, their support a warm embrace. "You're stronger than she ever was," Mrs. Carter said, patting my arm. I nodded, my heart swelling. Rachel's betrayal had united us, turned foes to friends. This was family redefined. I looked at James, his carpenter's hands steady on a crate. "We'll build again," I said. He smiled, a flicker of the boy I'd raised. "With you, Mom." The moving truck rumbled up its horn, a call to freedom. We loaded our past, ready for a future untainted by her lies. As we drove away, the Savannah skyline faded, the river glinting under the sun. I felt light, unburdened. The house was gone, but my legacy lived in James, in us. Betrayal had tried to break me, but justice had lifted me. The road to Charleston stretched ahead, promising peace. For me, for James, for our family.